Morning, everyone. Hope you're doing all okay. So, welcome to the event this morning. This is about something called Microsoft Sway. And if you're unsure what Sway is or what it's used for, hopefully we can get you over that little hurdle this morning. It's a great new piece of tech that Microsoft have brought in. The way Microsoft sell it is they say it's a way of distributing interactive training materials, um, advice, information, newsletters, those sort of things. But we'll see what that actually means in a second. So it's all done through a web browser. So very much like when we was looking at forms a couple of weeks back, everything's done through a web browser, and this is kind of the power of it in a way. So best thing to do is if you go to office.com and log in with your Microsoft email address and password, your school email address and password, you'll get this portal. I always try and guide people to this portal. You're going to see it more and more because Microsoft are kind of trying to guide you there as well. This gives you access to all the things that you've got the permission to get hold of. So you can click on the 9 little boxes and you can see all the apps that you've got available. If you click on all apps, you'll see that there's an awful lot there, one of which being Sway. You'll also see this bar come up and you'll see that Sway's on mine. Your bar might look different. This is like a contextual bar and it changes depending on what you use. So if Sway's not there, it will be in the 9 little boxes in the top left. The other reason why it's worthwhile pointing you to this portal is you've got a button here that says Install Office. And if you click on there, you can see Office 365 apps. Depending on the license that you have. So if you're with a school that's supported by eServices, then the license that you have actually allows you to install Office on your home machines. And you can have it on up to 5 devices at home. So if you've got your own personal laptop, you don't kind of need to spend £70 a year getting Microsoft Office. You can actually use your work email address and password, and that is completely legitimate. It's legal and it's all within the license. So yes, if nothing else, I've just saved you £75 a year. So hopefully some of you will find that useful. But yes, you can download the Office 365 apps. But yeah, so this morning, Sway. So like I say, I've got Sway there because I do use it a fair bit. But if you haven't, you can click on the 9 little boxes. It may be in that first chunk there. If not, just click on all apps and it'll be in there. So when we click on Sway, it depends kind of what's going on at the time. Usually you'll get this page. What I say to people here is you can work from here, but I'm just going to take you to another page. If you scroll down a bit, you will see all Sways. And if you click on there, it'll take you to this page. Sometimes when you click on Sway, it takes you straight here. It kind of depends how it's been set up at that point by Microsoft. This will show you all your Sways. So what's the Sway? What's the point of it? I'll show you a demonstration and then we'll kind of go through how we can use this in educational establishments and why we're pushing it so much to be used in schools. So like I say, it's all done through a web browser. I haven't had to download any apps or anything like that. I can then click on this Sway. If you're picking it up, that's just a siren going past my house. Don't worry, I'm not being arrested. So we have the Sway. It's essentially broken down into cards. Now, because I have the rights to edit this Sway, it's letting me edit it. And that's what I'm looking at now is the editing of this Sway. And this is a demonstration one that Microsoft have produced. So as you can see, the Art and Film Institute at LA County Museum of Art. And you look down and you can see some text and some text. Then there's something called an embed card. And you can see there that there's google.com/maps. Okay. Then you can see a picture and some text. Picture and some text. You can see it's all kind of breaking down. And you're like, okay, so what is this? If you click play, this is how people you send it to will see it. So As you can see, we've got the picture in the background and we've got some text. I've got 2 arrows down here where I can advance or go back. I can also use the arrow keys on my keyboard. If I'm looking at this on an iPad, so literally any device that's got a web browser can see this sway. If you see, it's literally just a URL. So if I'm looking at this on an iPad, I can kind of swipe left and right. And we can see we've got some text and there, and then, oh, there's a map. And because it's a Google map, I can actually click on that and kind of scroll in and move it around, and it's a Google map. So it works like Google Maps. And I've got all that functionality. I can click on the different places. I can do directions and all that sort of thing. I can carry on. Here we've got that picture that we saw and the text. Then we've got some more pictures with some captions there. We can go through. We've got, oops, if I've just gone a little bit too far there. I've got a stack of photos there, and it says there, tap to flip through the stack. So you see, I can click on it and it'll go through as though they're photos. I can carry on. A sample short film, and then there is a video, and that's linked to a YouTube video. So I can click on play, and that plays the video directly from YouTube. And then we've got some more text and an actual web link there. So if I click back onto edit, so what are we actually seeing here? What Sway allows you to do is build a web page, essentially. And then that web page, the person who's looking at the web page can interact with it however they want to. They can skip through things, they can look at different things, they can look at things in more detail if they want to, they can go off elsewhere. And this is where the power of this is. So, okay, we can push some information out through a web page. How is this useful? Well, let's take, for instance, something like a school newsletter. We produce school newsletters. In some schools, it's every half term. In some, it's every term. They can be quite stressful things. There's deadlines. There's other things to get done. Usually things end up being rushed a little bit at the end. There's lots of faffing where you're having to like resize pictures on publisher documents or Word documents and those sort of things. You then have to print out one copy of this 5-page document for every child, and there could be 700 kids. Then, of course, as you're printing it, the printer breaks down or runs out of ink or runs out of paper or something like that. And it's just stress and stress and stress. Then you finally get all these newsletters printed. You then discover that you actually haven't got permissions to use the photos of one of the children on there, so you have to rip a page out, you have to reprint it and put it back in. These things happen. And then you finally distribute it to all the parents, and you walk out of school at the end of the day and there's 50 of them in the bin off the road from the school. These things happen. We could do our school newsletter in Sway, and then all we need to do is send the URL link to the parents. We can do training materials in Sway. Where Sway also comes in very useful, kids absolutely love using this, and you'll see why in a second. So if you want to gauge some of the children's knowledge, in the past you may have got kids to do a PowerPoint presentation, for instance. This sort of sorts all that out. Get them to do a Sway instead, and I promise you that the kids will gravitate towards this more than they gravitate towards PowerPoint. And like I say, we'll see why in a second. So there's a bit of magic going on. So let's kind of dive into that. So if I go back to, oops, I'll click on Sway. We'll go back to here. And I'm going to start a new Sway. And like I say, everything's broken down into cards. So I'm just going to title this Sway, and we'll just call it School Newsletter. When is it? May 2020. Simple enough. There's a couple of things we've got here. We've got an emphasis, which if I highlight the text, you'll see it's simply bold. And I've got accent, which is italic. I'm not entirely sure why they changed bold to emphasize and italic to accent, but there we go. I can also highlight something, click on link, and it makes it a web link, for instance. I can then click on background. So this is where some of the AI that's going to be running in the background and we're going to be seeing a lot of starts coming into play. First thing, it's spotted that we're doing a school newsletter because we've typed it in. So it's now saying, well, do you want me to search for school newsletter? Do you want me to search for school newsletter May 2020? And then it's randomly put animals in there for some reason. So we'll click on school newsletter. And you'll see it's come up with some examples of a school newsletter. Doesn't really help us. However, we've got there all images and videos. Well, we'll stay on images for now. What we'll do is we'll, for this little example, we'll just do school. It's quite grand, but we'll say that that's our school. So for now, I'll use this picture. And all I need to do is I can either click on it and click add, or I can just drag it onto the bar there. You'll see also I've got this tick box which says Creative Commons only. We're very used to the fact that if it's on the internet, we can share it. And that's actually not technically true. Anything that you create, you own the copyright to. So when you actually take someone's image off the internet, you're effectively breaching their copyright. Creative Commons is a way of people distributing photos and giving people permission to share them. So by having Creative Commons ticked means you can actually use these pictures, and that's fine. So although you can untick and you'll get more options, you could be technically breaching someone's copyright. I personally think, particularly when you're using this with children, to actually give them a little bit of a talk about copyright and sharing images which aren't necessarily theirs, and for them to understand Creative Commons is a good thing. So yeah, stick, if you can, stick with the tick box and Creative Commons only. So there we go. We've got our title and we've got the picture of our school. Let's have a look how it looks. So if I hit play, there you go. You can see we've got our picture, we've got our text has appeared, and we've got our arrows that can move it side to side. Here's what you need to be aware of at this point. You may say, I don't want school newsletter May 2020 there. I want it to be just along the top on one line. Or I want a school newsletter and then I want May 2020 to be slightly smaller. This is what a lot of people get wrong when they deal with Sway. It's not like Publisher or PowerPoint. You don't accurately position things exactly where you want them on the screen. What you need to remember is you don't know how the people who are looking at this are going to look at it. So are they using, as I am at the moment, a laptop with an external screen? Are they using a mobile phone in portrait mode? Are they using a mobile phone in landscape? Are they using a tablet in portrait, a tablet in landscape? Are they using a Chromebook? You have no idea. What's actually going on here is, and we can change things, and I'll show you that in a second, but what it's doing is the artificial intelligence running in the background is saying, I will make this look nice, and it will look roughly like this on any device, and you haven't got to worry about it. If you start faffing and trying to put things exactly where you want them to be, when people change their mobile phone from portrait to landscape, things are going to move around and it's not going to look right. So the whole idea is you let the AI in the background do its magic, and you just worry about the content. Like I say, you have got some control, and you've got more control than you probably imagine. But you are guaranteed that whatever you put in here will look good to the end user. And that's the crucial thing. It's one of the reasons why kids love it so much, because all they have to do is throw the content in there, and the things they get back look great without them having to put any effort in. And sometimes we can spend far too long trying to make things look nice, and we can forget about the content. This does it for us. So we'll just go back to edit, and we'll start assembling this thing and making it look a bit better, and we'll see how things move on. So, like I say, it's all broken down into cards. So there's our first card, and it's always a title card. We then need to add some content. So just click the add at the bottom. We have the suggested tab. You'll see in a second that the suggested tab is made up of all the things that are within these. So if we look, we've got text, and all you have are a heading 1 and a text. Then you've got media, so you can add an image, a video, audio, embed, which we'll come to in a bit, and we can upload our own things if we wanted to. So if you've got your own photos on your laptop, you can use upload. If you've got your own documents, you can actually upload Word documents or PDF documents into Sway, and it will try to lay them out. I've also got group. These are for pictures. So we've got an automatic, a grid, a comparison, a stack, and a slideshow. We'll get to those in a bit. In the suggested, as you can see, those are all things that we've seen before. We're going to start with a heading. So we'll go heading, and you'll see we've now got one section. So it starts breaking things down now into sections. So we have one card in the first section. Add the first level heading. So it's a school newsletter, May 2020. We could say, with everything that's going on in the world, welcome back, because we may very well be back next month. Again, I've got the emphasis, I've got the accent, I've got the link. I've also got a bin, so obviously the bin will just delete the card. I haven't got the bin on the card at the top, because that's the title card, and you have to have a title card. Again, we've got the image like we had with the title card. So again, we can do a search. So if we said hello, maybe, and we could just take an image, we'll take that one, and we could just drag it, pop it in there. We'll do some more content. So you'll see here, I can click on the plus sign there, and it's adding it within that section. If I move down, you see the green bar appears at the bottom. That means I can now add a new section, but we'll not worry about that for now. We'll just add into this first section. So we just want some text, and we'll just say, welcome back to school. So we could have a big chunk of text there if we wanted to. You'll now see we've got some more options. I can change that to a heading if I wanted to. I don't, so I can change that back if I wanted to. We've also got this undo button at the top, so if I undo it, it'll just take you back to where it was. Emphasis, accent. You'll see now I can put in things like bullet points, numbers, and we've got the link. Again, I can delete it, and then we've got these two icons here, which we'll look at in a second. So we've started putting together our newsletter. Let's have a look how it looks. So as you can see, school newsletter, I can go across, welcome back, and then there's the text. Fine. Go back to edit. So you can see these things are starting to come together. Let's do a new section. So I'll click on the little green bar at the bottom, and I'll do a heading, and you'll see section 2. Photos. So we'll just grab a photo of a forest for now for the background for this. And what we'll do is we'll add some photos in. So again, you could upload these from your own computer if you wanted to, but for now we'll just do we'll add a stack, and it says there add content. So got these forest photos. I'll just drag some in. So I'll just drag that to there. I'll pop another one in. I'll pop another one in. We'll do one more for good luck. There we go. We'll hit play. So there's our school newsletter. Welcome back. Welcome back to the school. And then there's our header, so photos. And then there's our stack. And we can click on it and go through the pictures. So hopefully you can now see how quickly it is to just throw things in and get something that looks okay. But let's start tweaking these things around a bit. So first of all, we can click on a card. Whenever there's a picture, there's something called focus points. Now, if we click on play, this might make a little bit more sense. That picture there where it says hello and you've got the big smiley face and welcome back. If you're looking at that on a mobile phone and the mobile phone is in landscape mode, you may only see the welcome back and the hello section of that picture. Yeah, it may cut off the smiley face, or it may show you the middle, so you may only see the bottom of the hello and the top of the smiley face because the phone is in landscape. We can change that with focus points. So when I click on focus points, it now gets me to select what are the important bits of your picture. Now, you'll see in a second that you should do this with all of your photos. You've got a couple of options. You can either say the entire image is important. So whatever it does, it will show the entire image, even on a mobile phone in landscape, or portrait if the photo's in landscape. It will show the whole image. Or you can click on a particular section. So you can say that whatever happens, make sure you show that bit. You can also select other sections. So what it will do is ensure that whatever happens, it makes sure those three sections are there. That's very useful. If you've got a group photo, you can kind of click on the faces and it will ensure that the faces are seen and it's not just kind of like their torso. So you could set these focus points for pictures. Like I say, it's a good idea to do that for every picture, and you'll see why in a second. So by clicking the entire image is important, it forces Sway to show the entire image. If we go down, you'll see we can also do focus points on that picture. We may say, well, for that one, it's only there that's important. The stack kind of shows the whole thing anyway, but you can still do focus points. Again, you'll see why in a bit. And like I say, it's a good idea just to go through and tick them all and make sure that it's either this image, the entire image is important, or to select some focus points. If you click play, it won't make any difference on here, obviously, because it's showing the whole image, but on a smaller screen, it very well may do. So if you find that the picture's not quite displaying how you want it to, make sure you go in and do the focus points. Other things we can do, because these are in sections, you'll see that we've got this little triangle. I can click there and kind of fold the sections up. And then that makes it very easy. I can then start moving things around, so I can resort entire sections. Or I can go into a section and I can resort the stack. Or if I've got, So for instance, if I went here and we had another text card, another thing I can do is I can actually sort the cards, so I can move the cards around within the section as well, and you just kind of drag them using the kind of blank space that you've got there. As you can see, if you're inside, it becomes the cursor, but if you go anywhere near the outside or any of this blank space, it becomes the arrows, the cursor does, and that means that you can drag things around. You can also move cards from one section to another if you wanted to, so those options are there. And of course, you've got the delete. The other thing that you've got is you have this these little icons here, which are emphasis. There you've got a kind of small and a large. If we go to the actual stack itself, so you'll see the stack, which is this group of pictures. Yeah. So that's the stack. You'll see that we've got the individual cards, but if I click on the actual title of the stack, I've got the bar at the top there as well. So I've got the group type, which at the moment is a stack. I can ungroup them, so they just become individual cards. And I've also got these emphasis boxes here, and I've got a small, medium, and a large. If we just have a look at this stack, you'll be able to see what I mean. That is quite small on the screen. If I go back to edit and I change the stack and I change it to large and then click play, you'll now see it's much bigger on the screen. And obviously the medium, it's just a little bit down from that. We can do that with the other cards as well. So if we look at the text card there and we make that medium, we leave that one as small, we should be able to see the difference, hopefully. So you'll see, there we go. The first card has gone into this kind of subheader, and then you've got the second card is just the text. So you can see that you can start now playing around with things. If we go back to this stack, like I said, we've got the group type, and the stack was what we selected. So if you remember, when we did a new card, we did a new stack there. But in group, we've got all these others, which is automatic, grid, comparison, stack, slideshow. If we go here, I can change the group type here as well, automatic, grid, slideshow. If I click on automatic and click play, you'll see it becomes like that. I can then, as the user, click on that at my own behest sort of thing and then skip through them like that if I wanted to. Again, it's giving the user the option to do what they want. Grid. Now you'll see as I'm scrolling, little bits of animation are happening. We'll come to that as well in a bit. You just need to kind of have a little play with these to see which one works for you on a particular sway. So we'll just do that slideshow just to show you what it looks like. So as you can see, if you're doing this sway, you've got a lot of options on how you present things to people. So we can see that we can very quickly put things together, and we can very quickly have something which may or may not work for us. But we're very kind of beholden to whatever the Microsoft artificial intelligence in the background does. Well, one of the things we can do is we have got some ways of tweaking things. If we click on design, it will show us the sway. and then I can click on styles. So I can go through this way and it shows me what it looks like. Straight away, I can change it to vertical if I wanted to. So rather than being a lefty righty, it's an up and a down. Again, if you're on an iPad or a mobile phone, you just swipe up and down with your finger. Or I can click on slides, which gives you a bit more of a traditional PowerPoint feel, in that you do then have the buttons and you kind of go between the slides, sort of thing. It totally depends how you want to do it, vertical or horizontal. It's up to you. You'll notice there's a few other little things here which we're going to come to in a bit, and it is trying to force me to show you as well. I can hit this remix. So if I just hit remix, it all of a sudden starts changing things around. So it's changed the font. It's put a nice little gradient on that image, on all the images, in fact, for us there. You'll see it's got that nice little background, nice gradient there, and then our photos. That's actually quite nice. I like the look of that. You can just hit the remix button and it'll just randomly tweak things. Here's something you need to be aware of. When you're working on this with pupils, this comes in when I actually do face-to-face tuition as well. We'll kind of do this and we'll do it together. Let me just take a drink. Yeah, we'll kind of do this together. I mean, everyone will put in school newsletter May 2020 and they'll drag a picture in and that sort of thing. But when everyone hits the play button, it all looks different. Everyone's got a different look about them, because when it initially puts things together, it just kind of randomly throws things in and randomly does the layout. So some people will get a horizontal layout, some will get a vertical. For some people, it'll be in one font, for some people, it'll be in another. So it's exactly the same content, but it all looks a little bit different. Some of them have animations in that as they move across, the actual image moves very slowly across the screen. Others don't. It's just kind of dependent on what the AI decides at that time. And it can kind of worry people sometimes in that they're like, but I've done this and I haven't got exactly the same as what the person sitting next to me's got. And it's like, that's fine. It's the AI has just decided that you're getting it like this and they're getting it like that. And it might be exactly the same content. It's just done it in different ways. It's fine. But like I say, we have got some control. If we go down here, we have some color palettes and styles and things like that. So there's a style. So it's kind of very black and white. In fact, it's actually made all the images monochrome as well. When you get to your actual photos, it never tweaks the photos. It does leave them as they are. But yes, sometimes some of these, as you can see, it's turned that into black and white. I could go across and I see the same style, but with different color palettes. So you see I've got the arrow key there. And, you know, slightly different fonts, slightly different color palettes, but similar. If we go down, we've got some more. And as you can see, I've got some ones here with some nice little backgrounds in. Some there with some birds in. That's actually a new one. I haven't seen that design before. That's very floral. Yeah, so you see that you've got a lot of options to play with here if you wanted to. What you can also do is hit this customize button. Now, this is where adults struggle. Kids have got no problems with this bit, but the adults struggle. So if we customize, you will see it says here, color inspiration. As adults, we're used to PowerPoint, we're used to Publisher, we're used to kind of saying exactly what color everything will be on the screen. Sway doesn't work like that. Like I say, you've got no idea how the person who's interacting with your sway is actually looking at it. Mobile phone, tablet, landscape, portrait, laptop, we don't know. You also don't know how good their colours are on their screen. You're not entirely sure whether they may be looking at this, as you'll see in a bit, in a kind of a high contrast setting, for instance. So what Sway does is it gives you a colour inspiration. This isn't every piece of text I want to tweak it to be this particular shade of green, and I want the pictures to have it's an inspiration. It's almost like a kind of hippie vibe, in that you go, look, kind of use this colour and do what you want with it, and you have to kind of just relinquish a little bit of control, because again, you don't know how people are going to be interacting with this at the end point. So you can actually select a colour, and that colour becomes the inspiration. What it does do, and this is where it becomes most useful, it shows you every picture you have added to the sway. So what you can do is pick the picture, and it uses that as a colour inspiration. So can you now see we've got some palettes pop up, and they're green. And then when I click on it, you can see go across. We may go, well, actually, if we've got quite a foresty theme to that, that might work for us. We may go, well, it's a little bit, the white is a little bit much. There we go, that looks all right. What we can also do is, if we scroll down a bit more, we've got font choices. Now, again, when you click on it, you will get a list of fonts, and they're grouped together. Again, this will not be every font on your machine, because this isn't about what's on your machine. This is about what people can access who may be looking at this on a mobile phone or a tablet or a laptop or a Mac or a Chromebook or a Linux machine. So what Microsoft have done is they've prepared sets of fonts which work well together, and then you just have to select the set that you want. So you may go for that one, for instance. And you know that no matter what device people look at it on, it's going to look pretty much like this. We've then got a couple of other options. So we have an animation emphasis. Like I say, sometimes when you do these, there's little bits of animation on the screens. Not always, but sometimes. And that can just make it either intense, moderate, or subtle. It's usually best to leave it as moderate. Sometimes the images can be moving a little bit quick. And then you've also got text size. So there we go. Simple enough. We can just kind of make everything just a little bit bigger if we wanted to. So we do have a little bit of control. So we've got these sort of styles and color schemes down here. We can choose whether it's vertical, horizontal, or slides, and then we can go into customize, and we can have these kind of what feels like limited options, but when you understand that it's because you don't know how people are going to be looking at it, it makes sense. Like I say, this is why kids love this so much. They can just throw the content in, do a few little tweaks, and they know it's going to look nice however it's being shared. If we go back to the storyline, so we've got our sway. If we want to share it with the wider world, we can click on the share button. You've now got some options. As with the forms, as with OneDrive, whenever you get to the share option, take a breath, stop, breathe, think. What do you want to do? First thing to look at, and be very, very, very careful with this. Invite people to view or edit. Don't click on edit unless you're absolutely sure that you are sending it to one person or a very small group of people and you want them to have edit access. Don't. Make sure it's on view. You can have multiple people working on a sway, in which case you would go specific people or groups, you would enter their email addresses and you would select edit. Other than that, no, leave it on view. Again, even if it's on view, if you've got it set to specific people, if anyone who's not in that list looks at that link, it won't let them see it. Those in your organization, this is what's called the Microsoft tenancy. So it's the people in your tenancy. If you're a school supported by eServices, that will also include other schools supported by eServices. If you're Wolverhampton City Council, it will be everyone within Wolverhampton City Council. It kind of depends how your tenancy is set up. What we'll mostly be doing for things like this is anyone with a link. So if we're sending this to parents, for instance, so this is our school newsletter, we would send it to parents. You will click anyone with a link, and what that means is anyone with that link can see this page. We've got a couple of other options yet, but let's be kind of honest about this. If you do anyone with a link and you're sending this out to parents, don't pretend that only parents will see this. Parents could take that link and send it to a relative. They could put it on Facebook. They could tweet it. And anyone, literally anyone with the link can see it. So obviously, if you're putting a newsletter together and you've got pupil photos, make sure you've got permissions for those pupils to have their photos on the website. It's essentially a school website, so same rules apply. We've got some more options as well. So I can set a password to view or edit the sway. And then the viewers can actually click the share button as well. I always think that's a little bit of a misnomer, because you may think, well, if I untick that and keep it as anyone with a link, I can just, it's fine. Only the people I send the link to will get it. But you don't know what the people are going to do with that link after. They may pass that link on. So even though they can't actually click on share and generate their own, they can still send yours on. So be aware. Always err on the side of caution. If you're not sure, assume this is going to be public domain and anyone can see it, and make sure that anything that you put on there is safe and you have permissions to do so. We've also got the three little dots. So if I click on my sways, it's like clicking on sway there, and it just takes me to my list of sways. I can create a new one. I can duplicate this one if I wanted to. I can save it as a template. So if we've got the same sections in every one of our newsletters, we can save it as a template and it's all set up ready for us to go. We'll come to print and export in a second. Then got settings for this sway. What's the language? Show text direction buttons. Obviously, if you have written it in Arabic, it just gives you that option that you can swap it around, left to right and right to left. Viewers and co-authors can duplicate this sway. Essentially, if you've got a Microsoft account, you've got access to sway. That includes personal Hotmail and Outlook.com email addresses. So if you send this link out, what people will have the option to do is they can click on it and duplicate this sway. They can click on these three little dots and duplicate the sway for their own use. Now, like I say, if it's a school newsletter any of the pictures and stuff on there need to be treated as public domain anyway. But you may decide that actually I don't want them just duplicating it completely within Sway, and you can take that option away from them. When they've got that option, they can obviously print it and export it, because they could duplicate it and then print it and export it. If you take that option away, you can then say, well, I'll let them print it or I'll let them export it if I want to. We'll come back to why you might want to do that in a second. Viewers can change the layout. So the way you hit remix, viewers can as well. That might be a nice option. The show Sway informational footer is when we go right to the end, you'll see it says there made with Microsoft Sway. If you untick that box, it takes that bit away. That's all. I can then autoplay. So we use this sometimes when we've got screens in the entrances of schools. Schools can have a Sway. Literally all they have to do is point that screen then to a website, and then so long as the autoplay is set to on, it treats each of them as slides, and how long do you want the slide to be on for. As you can see, 5 seconds to 60 seconds per slide, and loop continuously. Obviously it gets to the end, goes back to the beginning. So yeah, those are the settings we can play with. This is the reason why I've skipped over print and export. It's for these. We have an accessibility checker and an accessibility view. So if we look at our Sway, now this is where Sway really comes into its own. Your school newsletter is 5 pages printed 500 times on A4 paper. 50 of them end up in the bin over the road from the school. And people see it however you've given it to them. So I come on here and this is how I'm seeing it here. As a user looking at this Sway, I have accessibility view. So can you see how this has changed? It's gone from this to this. And you think, well, what's going on here? What this actually is, Sway is showing this in a way that is dyslexic friendly. It also helps people who've got visual impairments and anyone who needs to use a screen reader. So this accessibility view is something your school newsletter could never do. For instance, if you have someone who's visually impaired or dyslexic, they're kind of stuck when you hand them your school newsletter. When you distribute your school newsletter through Sway, they've got the ability to look at it in an accessibility view. Oops, it isn't. Go back to edit. Yes, so that's what the accessibility view is. Kind of shows it you in a dyslexic friendly format. The accessibility checker, when we look at our photos, you'll see here we've got a caption. This is for screen readers. It can also sometimes, when you look at it as a slideshow, it can show the captions underneath. But this can be very useful because what you can do is put a caption in, and then if you've got someone who's got a screen reader, as well as the picture being displayed for everybody else, the screen reader will read the caption to them. So you could describe what the picture shows, and it means they're still collaborating with the newsletter. And that's all accessibility checker is doing. It's going through and saying you haven't put alternative text in. View chance, there you go. There's an alternative text. You can review it, change it to what you want, go to the next one. You can just say that it's a decorative image, so it's not something that needs description. But as you can see, it's pulled in these captions from the site that it was on, and you can just tweak those captions to whatever you want. and it means screen readers will pick them up. So that's the accessibility checker. The other thing about distributing it through Sway is that's obviously in English. If you've got parents for whom English is an additional language, they may have a mobile phone or a tablet which is set to their mother tongue. What will then happen is most modern browsers now, if your device is set to Polish, for instance, and it shows a web page in English, it will detect this text as being English. It will then pop up an option, do you want me to translate the page? And the browser will translate your newsletter into Polish. Again, this is something your normal newsletter wouldn't do, and it improves the accessibility of your newsletter. It means that parents who normally would be excluded from its contents can all of a sudden now access it. Printing and exporting. If we decided to distribute newsletters through Sway, like I say, all you end up doing is sending out the URL, and you can send the URL out through the text messaging service that schools use. You could send it via the school Facebook page or Twitter, or you can embed it onto the school website. We've even seen schools convert the URL into a QR code. I'll show you that in a second. And then you print the QR code out and you put it on the window of the classroom. So when the parents are queuing up to pick the kids up at the end of the day, they can scan the QR code with their mobile and it takes them straight to the newsletter. All of this kind of improves engagement with your parents. I've totally lost my train of thought as well. Where was I going with that? I'll catch up. I'll catch up. So yeah, sharing it. When I click on the visual link, I can get a thumbnail. This can go into an email message if you wanted to. Not used very often, but it is there. The embed code is the code that you would need to embed this onto your school website. If you wanted putting on your school website, then click on the share, and again, anyone with a link would need to be ticked because it would have to be public, and get embed code, and then send that code to the website team. Before I go on, there is some more stuff I want to show you, but I just want to check the Q&A and make sure that we've covered everything. Yeah, we're doing okay. Right. Try and pick up my train of thought now. Printing and exporting. That's where I was going. Yes, you're going to distribute this newsletter via a URL. However, you may have some parents who don't have internet access at home. And by distributing this as a URL, you're actually excluding them. You can print this way, or you can export it as a PDF, or in fact, I think it's a PDF and a Word document, yeah. And then print it if you wanted to. That just gives you those options if you have got parents for whom they have no internet access, and it can happen. This just means that they're not going to be excluded. You can print some off. But again, instead of printing 500 copies, you're only having to print 3 or 4. The other great thing about this is, as I say, you may have you may be in the position where you've used a picture and you don't have permission to use that picture. You've got your forms wrong. You've accidentally put a picture of a kid up that you haven't got the permissions for. Again, you can just change that. So I can scroll down to the bottom. I can upload from my device. I can upload from my OneDrive if I wanted to, or I can do a search. But if I do a search and just we search for hello, And if you find that you've distributed the sway and, oh no, there's a picture of a kid that we shouldn't have used, you can very quickly go in and just say, oh, actually, we'll change the picture. That went onto the wrong card, but, oh, if we go into there, sorry, my fault. Yes, so what you do is you delete the card in that regard, and drag the other picture in. If we do it for the top there, you'll see that I can just kind of go in and, oops, it's doing it again. They've tweaked this slightly. It used to be that you could just drag the image. There we go. See, I've dragged it and it's gone into the little green box, and that's replaced it. So yes, you can kind of very quickly just replace the image, although I did make a bit of a meal of that one. Other things you can do, as well as adding images, stacks, which are kind of like these group slideshows, those sort of things. The comparison one, actually, should just briefly say that they're quite common, but they're quite difficult to create. You've seen a lot where there was a lot recently with the coronavirus outbreak where they were showing overhead shots of city centres, and there was comparisons where it's before coronavirus and after coronavirus, showing like the empty city. But what it means is you kind of have two pictures which are taken from the same angle, but at different times. And it's just got a line in the middle, and you can drag it across so you can see the difference. They're quite difficult to set up unless you've got like really good equipment. They always seem to be slightly off. But yes, you have got that comparison if you want it. If we go to media, as well as pictures, you can add video, which is something else you couldn't add to a printed out school newsletter. If I go into video, you'll see, because I've typed in hello, Lionel Richie's popped up. You'll see that in this suggested, I was on images before, but all it's doing is moving to video. I can just drag that video onto there if I wanted to. And you'll see it just keeps going and going and going. It does give you a little warning there about copyright. Video's a bit strange. These should be Creative Commons, but you're looking at that straight away and you know that that's not Creative Commons because that's music. So you do have to be careful. If you're uploading a video, obviously I'd suggest uploading a video that you've created at school. If I go all, it's the images and the videos. What you sometimes get as well, when you go on to all, is you may get sections from Wikipedia pop up. You may even get, if you type in a subject, you may even get kind of like a picture and a bit of text, and you can actually drag the whole thing in and it kind of makes it a card. Those are options that you've got. I can also click on suggested when I go into this insert, and again I can go from my OneDrive, I can go for any photos on a Flickr account, Bing Images, which is what this is searching anyway, Pickit, which I've never used, don't know what it is, YouTube. So I can click on YouTube and I can just type in, just pick a YouTube video, or I can go from my device and I can upload a picture, a video from my device, and it'll go straight into the Sway for me. So this is kind of how it all goes together. So the way to do it is, you start with your blank Sway, you go in, you start assembling all your content. So you put your content in, you hit play, have a look how it is. Do you need to tweak it? And then you click on design. The design lets you see how the Sway looks, and then you can hit styles, and that's where you can go in and start tweaking how it looks. Once that's all done, your three little dots, check your settings, so make sure your English, your language is correct. Decide whether you want viewers to duplicate? Do you want to show the information bar? Those sort of things. And then you would go to share. Anyone with the link, or specific people if you wanted to. View, make sure it's view, and then just copy that URL. And you're away. It's that simple. If we go back to our original sway, that one. So we looked at this one. So if you remember, this is how we did this before. We kind of looked at this one. You can see there's that video. If you click on details, you can see there's the video. You see you got captions, alternative text, those sort of things. There's all the different cards, all the different images. You can see that's a group as a grid. That one's a stack. And then if we click play, we can actually see it in action. So you see that it's taken what was in the captions and he's put them underneath the photos on that one. Again, I could click on the photo if I wanted to. There's that stack. There's your short film, which again, I can click play. So hopefully you can now see how that's all gone together. We had, the one thing we haven't looked at is this embed code. So when we're on our sway, go back to the storyline. Oopsie daisy, I'm in the grid. If we go to that one, there we go. I have this thing which is embed. Embed forms, documents, audio clips, and more. So how does this work? Let me just find a YouTube video. So 1 second, because I'm not entirely sure what's going to pop up, I'm just going to take this off the screen. But if I go to one of our eServices YouTube videos, there we go. If we go there and okay, so here's a YouTube video from our channel, uploading a video to OneDrive. If I click on share on that video, I'll get a few options come up. One of them is embed, and it gives me this code. I copy the code, I go to my newsletter, and I paste the code. When we click play, there's the video. It's that simple. You'll see that the video is quite small there. If I go to edit, oh, I have only got the one option for, oh no, there we go, intense. That will make it a bit bigger. There we go. So as you can see, it's very easy to kind of just embed. That's all embed is. It's embed code. If you go onto that one, for instance, we had the embed from Google Maps. Again, on Google Maps, you can click on the three little bars at the top, share the map, and you can collect the embed code. You can also embed tweets. Now, it will just show the tweet. The reason I'm wary about embedding tweets is you used to be able to embed tweets, then it stopped working for about 18 months because Twitter changed their system, and now it started working again. So I'd be more tempted, if you wanted to share a tweet, to maybe do a image grab of it and share the image as opposed to embedding the tweet. It seems to be a bit hit and miss, but just be aware that you can do it, but it may stop working, and that's down to Twitter as opposed to Microsoft. Pretty much most websites have got this kind of share button, and they allow you to create some embed code. What you can also do, and it can get a little bit kind of meta, you can embed a sway within a sway. So I've seen that on training materials in the past. Microsoft are quite keen on that one. They will take a sway and embed another sway within it. It can get a little bit, so long as it's one level, it's okay. If you start embedding a sway within a sway that's embedded, it'll be too much. But yes, it can technically be done. Anytime you can create that embed code, you just create the embed card and away you go. And I think we're pretty much covered. Do we have any questions in the Q&A? We don't. 6 minutes past 11, not bad. We do have a 20-minute video on our YouTube channel about sway, which kind of goes through this again, and also this video will go up on our YouTube anyway. So anytime you want to kind of refer to this, it's there waiting for you. The thing you need to do is kind of have a play. What you do with it is entirely up to you. Like I say, we've looked at a newsletter. I've seen training materials be done in this, which is very good. Allows you to go through and kind of look at it in your own time. I've seen advertising done in this. I've seen promotion done in this. And I've also seen some brilliant examples of children using this to kind of prove that they know something about a subject. I certainly know a few years back, teachers would get students to do a PowerPoint presentation, for instance, get them to do a sway, because, like I say, you can spend a lot of time with PowerPoint or Publisher or Word, just kind of laying things out and just doing that kind of faffing, really, of making it look pretty. As you can see with sway, we just throw the content in and it does it for us. And then all we have to do is go to design, and oops, click on design again, styles. And as you can see, we've got these little things, and it's just very quick. Just click and what happens, or just hit that remix button. Until you kind of go, yeah, that's the one I want. That'll do. There we go. The kids really kind of appreciate that and work really well doing that. And like I say, it just saves a lot of faffing of them trying to tweak things. Straight away, it just kind of looks good. I think we're kind of covered. That's as much as I needed to do. There's nothing in the Q&A. You lot seem to be happy with that. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining this. I hope you've found this useful and you can see why sway is so powerful. Just as a school newsletter, if nothing else, just doing this as a school newsletter, you're saving on printing costs. You're saving an incredible amount of time, because you're literally just having to copy and paste things into the sway, as opposed to having to lay them all out on a Word document or a publisher document. You're not having to pay for printing. You're not having to spend time doing printing. If you do, you only have to print 4 or 5 copies. You can send it out much quicker to the parents. You can edit things if it needs to be edited. It gives the parents the chance to change the language on it if they want to. It gives them a chance to look at the school newsletter while they're waiting for their kid to come out of class at the end of the day. It's so powerful. And just on that alone, schools should be looking at this. But again, with this remote teaching, you can use this, you can put some materials together, and all you need to do is send your children the URL. They can access the sway and access all the information within it. And you can get your kids to log on using their email address and password, and they can create their own sways. The only warning, of course, is yes, it's on the internet, so be aware that you've got permission to use the photos. Make sure the kids are aware of that. Make sure you're respecting copyright, because that's important, and enjoy it, have fun with it. Like a few of the things we've shown you in the last few weeks, it kind of takes a change in mindset, and this is one of them. I remember being actually at a Microsoft event, and one of the Microsoft people, we was talking about some information, and this Microsoft person says, "Oh, I'll sort out a PowerPoint and send it to everyone." And one of the people there went, "A sway?" And they went, "Oh yeah, I can do it on Sway. Of course, I can do it on Sway." They realised that if they produced a PowerPoint and they sent it out, that would mean that everybody who received it had to have PowerPoint, had to be on a device that used PowerPoint. If you send the URL out with the school newsletter, they literally only need a web browser. That's all. So it's so inclusive. So yeah, please embrace it, play with it, enjoy it, and then pass it on to the children, because they will run with this, and you will see them doing some absolutely magical things, and they will get so much out of it. So thank you for your time. Thank you for going with us on this little journey. I hope you've all found it useful. We will be doing some more. Please, everyone, stay safe. Fingers crossed we'll see you all out in schools shortly. And thank you again for joining us. I'll stick around for the next kind of 15-20 minutes or so. So if you've got anything that you want to ask, just please pop into the Q&A. Alternatively, you can go onto Twitter, and you can follow us on Twitter. Ask me questions through there if you want to, or you can email us. We're on Teams. Video of this will be on YouTube shortly. So again, thank you very much, and we'll see you shortly for the next one, whatever that will be. Take care, folks.